Welcome back to the channel. And listen very carefully, because after this, you will never look at people the same way again. Part 1. The brutal truth about people. Most humans walk through life emotionally naked, exposed mentally, exposed psychologically, and exposed without even realizing it. They think they're protected because they smile politely, stay humble, and surround themselves with good people. But that illusion is exactly what makes them blind. Centuries ago, Machiavelli warned us with a truth most people still ignore. Men are simple and ruled by their immediate needs. Whoever deceives will always find someone willing to be deceived. And the person who gets deceived is usually you. Not because you're weak, not because you're uneducated, but because the world conditioned you to trust, while others quietly studied how to manipulate. You were taught to give people the benefit of the doubt. Others were taught how to exploit it. You were taught to see the good in people. Others learned how to weaponize their charm. Here's the brutal truth. The world does not become kinder when you become nicer. It becomes more dangerous when you stay unaware. Right now, while you're living your life normally, people observe you far more than you think. They study your reactions, your insecurities, your fears, your habits, your emotional triggers. They notice what makes you angry. They notice what makes you soften. They notice what makes you feel guilty. And they notice how desperate you are to be liked, understood, validated. Every weakness you show, even the smallest one, becomes a weapon in someone else's hands. A weapon they will use when they need control. But this video is where that ends. Because after today, that softness inside you that keeps getting exploited, that innocence that keeps getting abused, that open emotional access people use to twist your mind, it's going to burn out. And from that fire, a new version of you will rise. A version that is unshakable, unreadable, untouchable. Not cold, not emotionless, just completely in control of yourself. You will understand exactly how people operate, not from their words, but from their motives. You will start seeing the hidden strategies behind their smiles. You will sense the real intention behind their kindness. You will recognize who genuinely supports you and who is simply waiting for a moment of weakness. This is the beginning of your mental armor. A mindset where manipulation cannot reach you because you no longer give people access to your emotional center. A mindset where your silence becomes strength, your awareness becomes protection, and your presence becomes something people cannot read or control. If you're ready for that transformation, there's one affirmation you need to declare publicly, because once you say it, it becomes real. My mind is my strongest armor. No one can influence me without my permission. Type it in the comments. Let the world know you're done being manipulated. Let them know a different version of you is waking up. Because from this point forward, you will not walk through life exposed. You will walk through life powerful. Part 2. The mind that watches itself can't be controlled. This, right here, is the first real step to becoming mentally untouchable. Because Machiavelli understood something most people still fail to realize. A powerful mind is not the mind that knows everything. It's the mind that observes everything. Most people live like they're half asleep. They react before they think. They speak before they understand. They judge before they analyze. Their emotions sit in the driver's seat, while their mind is tied up in the back. And when you don't understand yourself, the world understands you better than you do. Manipulators see your patterns, your impulses, your emotional shortcuts. They learn your reactions the same way a hunter learns an animal's behavior. A fool is not someone lacking intelligence. A fool is someone who is emotionally predictable. But the person who watches their own thoughts, who observes their own emotions from a distance, that person becomes unreadable, unshakable, untouchable. This is where self-observation comes in. And no, it is not meditation, not spirituality, not some soft, find your peace practice. This is raw mental power. Self-observation is the ability to see your anger rising before it erupts. To feel a trigger being pulled, and instead of reacting, you pause and examine it. It's noticing the exact moment a manipulator tries to steer your emotions, and refusing to give them access. It is the power to watch your own mind like a general watching a battlefield. Imagine two versions of yourself standing side by side. One reacts instantly, emotional, loud, exposed. The other pauses, analyzes, observes, and chooses his response with precision. Which one is harder to control? Which one becomes a threat? Which one becomes untouchable? Always the second. Because when you watch your mind, you break the chain between stimulus and reaction. You create a small gap, a quiet distance, where you can see everything clearly. And that small gap is where all your power lives. Manipulators lose their grip because they rely on your automatic reactions, your anger, your guilt, your fear, your need for validation. If they can trigger you fast enough, they can control you. But if you pause, if you see the game while it's happening, their entire strategy collapses. Self-observation gives you emotional invisibility. People can no longer read you like an open book. They can no longer guess how you'll react. They can no longer predict your next move. You start noticing things others ignore. Tiny shifts in someone's tone, the way their eyes move when they lie, the tension in their smile, the energy behind their words. While others see the moment, you see the intention. While others respond emotionally, you respond strategically. And people will feel this shift in you. They'll say you've become colder, more distant, harder to manipulate. Good. That means they've lost access to the emotional buttons they once pushed so easily. Because when you understand your weaknesses, no one else can weaponize them. When you watch your own thoughts, no one else can steer them. When you stay aware, no one can drag you into their psychological traps. From now on, here's your training. Every time you feel anger rise, pause. Every time someone tries to provoke you, pause. Every time manipulation enters the room, pause. Step outside your emotions and observe yourself like a silent witness. This single habit will make you mentally untouchable. When you can watch your own mind, no one can control it. Part 3. Silence is your shield and your sharpest weapon. People think power belongs to the loud. They think the one who speaks the most wins the most. But Machiavelli knew a darker truth. The one who speaks less controls more. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Silence is the armor that protects your mind and the blade that cuts through manipulation without you ever lifting your voice. Most people reveal themselves without even realizing. They talk to fill the emptiness. They explain to feel understood. They overshare to feel connected. But every word they give away is a piece of their psychology handed to the world. The loud man exposes his fears. The loud man exposes his desires. The loud man exposes his intentions. But the silent one? He exposes nothing. He becomes unreadable. And what can't be read can't be controlled. Silence protects your inner world. No one can twist your meaning if you give them no words. No one can sabotage your plans if you reveal no plans. No one can predict your next move if your mind is a locked room. Silence is a strategic pause, a pressure that forces others to fill the gap. And in that gap, they reveal more than you ever could by speaking. Watch what happens when you stay quiet. People begin to explain themselves more. They start clarifying things you never asked. They reveal intentions you didn't even look for. They expose insecurities they were trying to hide. Your silence becomes a mirror they cannot escape. And mirrors make people uncomfortable, especially those who are guilty, insecure, or manipulative. When someone tries to guilt trip you, stay silent. Watch them drown in their own excuses. When someone tries to pressure you, stay silent. Watch them scramble for control. When someone tries to provoke you, stay silent. Watch their power dissolve when you don't react. Silence is not passive, it's not weak, it's not doing nothing. Silence is psychological warfare. It creates mystery, and mystery creates fear. Because people fear what they cannot understand. They fear unpredictable minds. They fear those who do not react the way everyone else does. And when people fear misunderstanding you, they respect you. When they can't predict you, they hesitate around you. When they hesitate, they lose power. Silence forces the world to lean toward you instead of you leaning toward them. It forces them to wonder what you're thinking. It forces them to question their own actions. It forces them to reveal themselves while you remain untouched. So train yourself to speak when it's necessary, not when it's comfortable. Answer slowly, reveal rarely, think deeply, and allow your silence to do the work your words no longer need to do. Because the man who masters silence doesn't just protect himself. He controls the entire room without ever raising his voice. Silence is not the absence of power, it is the birthplace of it. Part 4. Detach from people's opinions. Most people don't live their own lives. They live inside the expectations, judgments, and opinions of others. They walk like prisoners, dragging invisible chains. Chains made of fear, approval, validation, and the constant need to be liked. And manipulators know this. They exploit it. They use it as their first weapon. They attack your self-image, not your logic. Because the moment they influence how you feel about yourself, they can control what you do with your life. This is why detachment is the ultimate freedom. It breaks the psychological chokehold the world has on you. But understand this clearly. Detachment is not arrogance. It is not, I don't care about anyone. It is not coldness, pride, or ego. Detachment is simply this: standing so firmly in who you are that no one's praise lifts you too high and no one's criticism brings you too low. Because praise is a trap. Hate is a trap. Both can be used to steer your emotions, shift your behavior, and make you react. Praise can make you dependent. Criticism can make you defensive. Both give other people power over your internal state. But when you detach, you stop being moved like a puppet. You stop reacting emotionally. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't listening. You stop defending choices that were never their business to begin with. Your mind becomes a fortress, impenetrable, soundproof, untouchable. People can shout from the outside, but their voices never enter your inner world. This is when manipulators lose their weapon. Because their weapon was never their words, their weapon was your reaction, and without your reaction, they are powerless. Detachment gives you silence where anxiety used to live, clarity where confusion used to live, strength where insecurity used to live. It shifts the power dynamic completely. People will say you've changed. They will say you're colder, more distant, more focused, more silent. Good. It means they no longer have access to the old version of you, the version they could guilt trip, pressure, manipulate, or emotionally destabilize. Detachment doesn't make you heartless. It makes you independent. It gives you the ability to walk through the world without needing permission to exist. It allows you to make decisions based on logic, not fear. It frees you from the emotional chaos of other people's expectations. It creates internal peace so deep that the outside world becomes background noise. And here's the hidden truth few understand. When you detach from other people's opinions, you finally hear your own voice clearly for the first time. You hear your intuition, your real desires, your real boundaries, your real identity. You stop living for them, and you start living for you. So detach from praise, from criticism, from approval, from noise, from expectation. Let the world talk. Let them misunderstand you. Let them complain that you've changed, because you have. And that change is your power. Part 5. Control your reactions. Real power doesn't come from muscles, money, intelligence, or even influence. It begins with one thing: emotional discipline. The ability to stay in control when others want you to fall apart. Manipulators don't need you to be weak. They just need you to be reactive. They want you to explode in anger. They want you to panic. They want you to defend yourself too quickly. They want you to get confused and break your own logic. Because the moment you react emotionally, they win. Not because they're smarter, but because you surrendered your inner balance. But the person who responds slowly, calmly, deliberately, becomes impossible to manipulate. Understand this deeper. Controlling your reactions is not about staying silent. It's about controlling timing. You respond when it benefits you, not when they expect you, not when they provoke you, not when they demand you break your peace to satisfy their drama. A delayed reaction is a strategic reaction. When someone tries to trigger you and you stay calm, they lose access to the part of you they were trying to control. Your calmness frustrates them. Your stillness exposes their tactics. Your neutrality ruins their entire strategy. Because manipulators operate on emotional chaos. They need reactions to survive. They need your energy to fuel their agenda. They need your instability to create control. But when you remove your emotional response, their influence collapses. This is why cold logic is feared. This is why emotional discipline is respected. This is why unreactive people become powerful without trying. When you control your reactions, you think clearly under pressure. You see hidden motives instantly. You recognize manipulation before it even starts. You respond from power, not insecurity. Most people respond instantly because they feel pressured to. They fear silence. They fear looking confused. They fear disappointing others. But understand this: instant reactions are almost always emotional. Delayed reactions are almost always intelligent. When you slow down your response, you shift the entire power dynamic. You make the other person wait. You make them uncertain. You make them question themselves. This is psychological dominance without aggression. A calm person becomes unpredictable. An unpredictable person becomes unmanipulable. And an unmanipulable person becomes untouchable. Controlling your reactions is not suppression. It's strategy. It's knowing that your first emotion is rarely your best decision. It's choosing clarity over impulse. It's choosing power over panic. Once you master this, people stop playing games with you. They stop trying to trigger you. They stop testing your limits. Because they realize they have no emotional leverage. This is where true mental strength begins. This is when you become someone who cannot be shaken. This is when your mind becomes a weapon, disciplined, sharp, and controlled. When you control your reactions, you control the entire situation. Part 6. Learn to read intentions, not words. Words are the cheapest currency on the planet. Anyone can speak beautifully. Anyone can promise loyalty. Anyone can pretend to care when it benefits them. But intentions don't lie. Intentions leak through behavior, through energy, through patterns that even the best liars can't control. Most people make one mistake that destroys their ability to judge character. They listen to words more than they watch actions. But the truth is simple. People reveal their real motives in patterns, not promises. A person's behavior under stress, jealousy, pressure, failure, and anger tells you infinitely more than their most poetic words. Watch how someone acts when they don't get what they want. They're losing control. They're no longer benefiting from you. You succeed while they stay the same. They know you're no longer dependent on them. These moments expose the truth violently and instantly. Because fake kindness collapses when emotions rise. Pretending requires effort, and no one can fake character forever. Start paying attention to micro behaviors. They are the fingerprints of true intentions. The tiny hesitation before congratulating you. The forced smile when you succeed. The sudden tone shift when you talk about your goals. The energy drop when you enter the room. The inconsistency between what they say and what they actually do. The way their eyes change when you set a boundary. The questions they ask and the ones they avoid. The silence after your achievements. These details are invisible to the naive, but obvious to the aware. And awareness is power. People don't hide intentions well. You were simply never taught to look. But once you train your mind to see patterns, motives, and emotional energy, everything becomes clear. The friend who secretly competes with you. The relative who is waiting for you to fail. The coworker who smiles in your face but resents your ambition. The partner who uses affection as a weapon. The stranger who's too interested for no reason. When you read motives, not words, you gain psychological X-ray vision. You start seeing people for who they are, not who they pretend to be. Fake people expose themselves instantly. Manipulators avoid you because they can't use their usual tricks. Hidden enemies become obvious before they can strike. You stop falling for emotional traps. You stop giving trust to the wrong hands. You stop being fooled by charm, politeness, or empty promises. Most people are predictable. Once you learn to see intention instead of listening to explanations, this is the skill that makes you impossible to deceive, impossible to manipulate, impossible to betray. Because when you understand intention, you're always 3 steps ahead. You see the move before they make it. You recognize the danger before it touches you. You sense the shift before anything is said. You protect yourself without confrontation. You stay calm while others expose their true nature. This is psychological mastery. This is how you become mentally untouchable, not by being suspicious of everyone, but by being aware of the truth they cannot hide. When you stop judging people by what they say and start judging them by what they repeatedly do, you learn the most valuable skill in human psychology: the ability to read intentions, the only language that never lies. Part 7. The transformation into a mentally untouchable mind. This is where everything you've learned sharpens into one final transformation: the shift from being emotionally exposed to becoming mentally untouchable. Each part has shaped you, cut you, refined you, and now they all come together like pieces of a weapon forged in fire. Self-observation removed every hidden entry point inside you. You stopped living on autopilot. You saw your own triggers, fears, and weaknesses with honesty before anyone else could use them. Silence became your invisible shield. You no longer hand people the blueprint to your mind. They can't predict your next move, can't measure your intentions, can't decode your emotions, and that mystery becomes your psychological armor. Detachment broke the oldest chain of all: the need for approval. The moment you stopped bending for opinions, people lost the ability to pull your strings. Reaction control locked your power inside. Your emotions no longer spill out like a cracked cup. You choose when to respond. You choose how to respond. And most importantly, you choose if you should respond at all. Learning to read intentions gave you the ability to see through people. Not their words, not their excuses, their motives, their patterns, their emotional shifts. You see through kindness that isn't real, through smiles that hide envy, through silence that carries resentment. This is the moment all these skills merge, and your mind becomes a fortress. Not soft, not open, not easily accessed. A fortress with walls so high that only those who deserve entry ever see inside. You begin to sense danger before it becomes danger. You feel energy shifts the moment someone walks in. You recognize emotional changes others try to hide. Nothing gets past you anymore, because your awareness has evolved beyond surface-level interactions. You recognize masks instantly, not because you're suspicious, but because you've seen enough patterns to know what pretense looks like. You see motives without needing explanations. You don't wait for proof. You trust your perception. You read people in real time, their tone, their pauses, their breath, their energy. You're picking up signals they don't know they're giving. And as this awareness grows, people start reacting to you differently. Some become uncomfortable, not because you're rude, but because they can no longer influence you. Some stop joking with disrespect. Some stop trying to manipulate your emotions. Some stop testing your boundaries. People will say you've changed. They'll say you've become cold, distant, harder to convince, harder to influence. Good. That's the point. What they call cold is really control. What they call distance is really clarity. What they call arrogance is really self-respect. What they call changed is actually evolved. You're not cold, you're no longer accessible. You're not rude, you just don't entertain nonsense. You're not distant, you've learned to protect your peace. You're not emotionless, you're emotionally disciplined. You become unreadable. People can't guess what you're thinking. They can't predict your next move. They can't trigger reactions. You become unshakable. Pressure doesn't break you. Stress doesn't crack you. Conflict doesn't destabilize you. You become untouchable. Because the parts of you people once used against you are no longer available. Your insecurities, transformed. Your emotional leaks, closed. Your patterns, mastered. Your reactions, controlled. Your boundaries, reinforced. You have shifted from being influenced by the world to influencing how the world interacts with you. This transformation isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's silent, gradual, internal. But the world feels it. People notice it. Your energy changes rooms. Your presence becomes heavier. Your silence becomes louder. Your confidence becomes calmer. You stop chasing approval. You stop explaining your choices. You stop fearing judgment. You stop giving access to people who haven't earned it. And from here, you rise differently. Not with arrogance, but with certainty. Not with noise, but with precision. Not with chaos, but with clarity. This is not just self-improvement. This is psychological evolution. This is the emergence of a mind that cannot be controlled, broken, or manipulated. This is the birth of a mentally untouchable you.